more into the post-modern day psychology. And they got down to the root of a lot of different things that psychology today is hiding. It's real fucked up. It's really fucked up. So, Carl Jung, that's Carl, C-A-R, Jung, J-U-N-G. He's German as well. And it says he was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. Now, psychoanalysis. Let's look that up real quick, because this is just really deep. I'm about to tie this all in. Are you ready? Because before I do that, let me do this. How many of you have heard that if you have psychic gifts, or if you see anything or hear anything, or feel or taste or whatever, that you're crazy? How many people have heard that people who talk to dead people are crazy? How many people have been demonized for being psychic or having these gifts? Because I know I have. So, psychoanalysis, I need you to hear this and hear this very, very well. A method of dealing with psychic disorders. A method of dealing with psychic disorders by having the patient talk freely about personal experiences, and especially about early childhood and dreams. Did you catch that? Psychoanalysis is a method of dealing with psychic disorders. Let's go to the word psychic. Of or relating to the psyche, the soul, the mind, and the personality, but specifically the soul and the mind. Lying outside of the sphere of physical science. So basically they admit to another realm, okay? Sensitive to non-physical or supernatural forces. Sensitive to non-physical. If there's no such thing as another dimension, where are these non-physical things that people come up with? If there's no such thing. Or supernatural forces. That's deep. So basically, and then here's the other one. Second definition. A person apparently sensitive to non-physical forces. So wait. So psychoanalysis, even though if you claim to be a psychic nowadays, you get demonized. If you claim to hear things not from this realm, but from inwardly, you're schizophrenic. That's deep. That's real deep. Because there's absolutely no proof that a person that hears things is mentally ill. But that's another thing though. A method of dealing with psychic disorders. And remember, psychic is of or related to the psyche, sensitive to non-physical or supernatural forces. Let's just stick with that definition right there. Let's stick with the definition of sensitive to non-physical or supernatural forces. So, psychoanalysis is a method of dealing with psychic disorders. So they admit that psychics are real. To admit that a psychic is real, that means that you admit to other dimensions, right? Okay? Or other planes of existence. So, it says by having these people talk freely about personal experiences, and especially about early childhood and dreams. Because do you know that they built a whole science off of, if you've been through certain things, these are the things that you're going to suffer. If you've been through certain things, these are the things that you may act like. These are ways that you may act. These are things about you that you know what I'm saying? Like they have a whole list of ways that your trauma can manifest. But they call it a mental illness. And they give you medication can't help you because the mind is not physical. It says it's the part of an individual that feels, perceives, thinks, wills, and especially reasons. The soul, the immaterial essence of an individual life. It's immaterial, you can't touch it. So again, what are they medicating? And why? So, psychics aren't real, but when you are being psychoanalyzed, when your soul is being analyzed, the parts of your soul, it is a method of psychoanalysis dealing with patients or people who have psychic disorders by having them talk freely, disarming them to share their inner world with them. And instead of graciously accepting the ride to someone's personal universe, personal microcosm, you tell them they're mentally ill because they hear things that you may not hear, that may not be evident to you, because they feel things that may not be evident to you, because they smell and taste and know things that normally they had no other way of knowing. So they call those people weird and crazy, especially because most of the things that we know are hidden. So we have no way of knowing them other than a psychic connection. It's just that damn simple. So, psychology, the science of mind and behavior, the mental and behavioral characteristics of an individual or group. To bring this home, soul trauma and soul wounds should be the proper term, not mental illness. I do believe that there is a synthetic mental illness which has been created due to the colonization of civilizations and putting us in environments that are not suitable to who we are. The pollution, the filthy ass water, the nasty ass genetically modified foods, the chemicals in the air coming from the chemtrails, it changes a person's DNA. And it can cause reactions in people that also mimic mental illness, what they call mental illness. So mental illness may be real, but only on a synthetic basis. It's not that it's not real in those people, and it's not that they're not experiencing that. But mental illness does have a beginning. And it started when we started to be put into these cities, and when we were taken out of our ways of living. I won't go too far into that another time. But what I am going to say is, when you have a soul wound, medication won't help that. And I tried medication for abandonment issues. I have something called, I'm very open and honest, so I don't have a problem sharing anything about myself because I'm not ashamed of anything. And I know that when I talk and share my story and share things about me, it will be easily understood by people who actually have brains to critically think for themselves and who also have empathy or sympathy. Not that I need a pity party at all, but people who are able to connect with you on a level where they're able to understand what it is that you're going through based on, your trauma. Reactive attachment disorder. It says, reactive attachment disorder, also known as RAD, is a condition in which an infant or young child does not form a secure, healthy emotional bond with his or her primary caretakers, the parental figures. Children with RAD often have trouble managing their emotions. They struggle to form meaningful connections with other people. So the thing here is, when it comes to me, my core wound, remember, let's go to the definition of soul, okay? The immaterial essence of an individual life. The spiritual principle embodied in human beings. Spiritual or mortal force. The synonyms of soul is core, heart, essence, and substance. So when you think about a core wound, when you think about the soul, and when you think about trauma is a blow to the soul. But when it becomes a core wound, let me look at that as well. A core wound is not something that you get over easily at all. It is extremely, extremely hard. It fucks you up. It really does. And my core wound is abandonment. Core wound definition. It says, core wounds tend to be things like a sense of not being enough, of not being lovable to a parent, or feeling stupid, dirty, unwanted, or ugly. The 5 core wounds. Let's see. Here are 6 core wounds. Abandonment wounds, rejection wounds, intimacy wounds, vulnerability wounds, responsibility wounds, and burden wounds. I'm going to have to turn this off in a minute. The phone is getting ready to die. But I have a few of these. Having one is enough, but I have a few of them. And when you have a core wound, that is very fucking tough. Because it's like a real thick ass, long ass, stubborn ass, full of thorns ass type of vine that's deep in your soul and entangled up in you. And it hurts every time it's pulled at or touched or whatever. And it causes you to not really be who you really truly are. And it changes you because it's a core wound. It shook you to the core. And when you're shaken to the core, you're not yourself. So I personally believe that love can heal anything. And when it comes to abandonment and rejection and intimacy and things like that, those type of issues, they're not really that easy to love away or to love until they're healed. It takes a long time for those wounds to subside to the point where they don't overtake your life. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. And I've been doing that work for a very, very, very long time, for over 10 years. And it's something that you have to do for yourself. You have to get to a point where you discover that there is something deeply troubling and deeply wrong. And it's not really what they call a mental illness. It's not. But what it is the soul has a wound, a gaping wound, or whatever it is. And that wound is almost like a bomb that hit motherfucking water or an asteroid, and it cleared all that water out. That big ass space is an empty ass void on the inside of people who have these core wounds. And they're the feeling of emptiness, the feeling of loneliness, the feeling of nobody loves me, nobody likes me, no matter how much they tell you that they do love you and like you, you're literally repelling it because the wound is so fucking bad that the very thing that you want, which is love or acceptance or understanding, can hurt. They don't have a pill for that. They don't. And yet and still people wonder why Ashley acts the way that she does. I am extremely, extremely hurt and in pain on the inside. Every day. From all the other things that my family has done. That's a core wound. It's a couple of them. And with these core wounds, you act out in ways that you normally wouldn't act out in. But the thing is, you just really want somebody to hear you, because for so long, you didn't have a voice. And in the voice that you had, people told you to be quiet. So when you have this core wound, you should look it up. Medicine is not going to help it. And that's when the pain becomes so great that people start to smoke, drink, do other types of drugs. They use sex. They throw themselves into jobs and schools to keep their focus off of the gaping hole that is in them. That is in them, that causes them to feel the most horrible feelings in the world for no damn reason. No reason at all. The reason is because of what happened to them. But the weird thing is, nothing really has to happen after the initial thing for that trauma to be picked at, to have, cause you have flashbacks. It just happens. And then you go to the doctor, and then they try and put a disorder on you, when in reality, you're responding normally to how a soul wound is, to what it causes. And the reason why we're in the position that we're in, to a certain degree, is because the soul wounds that we have are being treated like they're mental disorders. And in order to deal with the spirit, or in order to deal with the soul, you have to have access to the other realms, psychics and mediums. But we've been told that psychology is the science of the mind when it's really being treated as a science of the brain. And then it discounts all psychic abilities. Because if you talk to yourself, you're mentally ill. But the crazy thing is, nobody tells you that there's a self inside of you called an inner voice. So technically, you are talking to yourself because it's yours. It's in you. Like my car, it's my car. Your soul, yourself is you. One's self, yourself, herself, himself, itself. Everyone has a self in them. Whether you call it intuition, whether you call it your discernment, whatever the hell you call it, everyone has it. And to discount that gift, if you're able to hear it and feel it and sense it when it's talking to you, because I do automatic writing as well. When you're able to sense and become familiar with your gift, psychology doesn't approve of that. Not modern day psychology. They don't approve of that. Because talking to yourself is mental to them. I think that's fucked up. Because it's very clear that having extrasensory perception is a such thing, and it's real. They make movies about it all the time. So why is it that we have to look at this and say, I hear things, but I don't want to tell anybody because I'm scared? they're gonna think I'm crazy. It's really fucked up. Mental illness has totally taken over and made people feel like, especially with schizophrenia, the reason why you hear the things that you hear is because you have a chemical imbalance. That's not really true. But the other thing is, trauma. Oh shit. The other thing is trauma actually activates the powers in you because you go into something called survival mode depending on what the trauma is. And when that trauma happens and it activates something in you, you become hyper aware. And when you become hyper aware, you're able to sense things that you know, like Ray Charles. His trauma was he went blind. He was able to see at one point, and then he went blind. And so where he was lacking with his eyes and his vision, his ears, he became hypersensitive with his ears. And he was able to distinguish when he walks past the room, the echo and the noise would change in his ears when the acoustics. So he became very hyper aware of those types of things. I'm going to end this before my phone dies. I hope that everybody enjoyed this, whoever watches it. I haven't been looking at the comments because it makes me nervous. There are no comments. Oh, just said deep. Hi, sister. Hey, Angie. But the science of the soul is what psychology really is, not the science of the brain. That's neuroscience. So if we can get back to the real science of the soul, we wouldn't have so many people walking around here not knowing themselves. We would not have so many people around here going to therapy and going and taking medication, creating lifetime clients, when we can actually do shamanic practices. We could do chakra healing. I'll get into how energy ties into all this. We can look into orgone energy. Like, it's just so many different things that they hid from us. And then some of our sciences, like astrology. Astrology is right in there with psychology, because these sciences literally are talking about the human on all well, not the human, the sentient being. Sentient means you're a conscious being. It takes the conscious beings as a whole, and there are different parts like archetypes, astrological prints, and the energy that the planets, and where they were when you were born. All that stuff is factored into who you are. Then you have your personality. Then you have the numerology. Then you have so many different components. And it's like, why condense all those things? Not even condense. Why push all those things out the way and say psychology is the science of the brain? And it's a chemical imbalance, and that's what's causing this. When in reality, in other countries, they see mental illness as a fucking spiritual awakening. And it's the West who sit up here and downplay people like me, who are able to see into the other realm, who's able to communicate with other forces and deities. And everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. Not everybody, but the people who don't agree with this stuff, simply because of their ignorance. That's all it is. It's ignorance. Because if you look in the dictionary, if you say there's no such thing as psychics, why are psychics being analyzed by psychoanalysis? Why are psychics being called having a disorder? A psychic disorder. A psychic disorder. What the fuck is that? Bitch, what is that? So, I'm working on myself so that I can teach these things to people. But I have to clear myself of all my trauma first. If not all of it, I have to clear myself enough to be able to be a creative channel for the things that I know and the things that I've been taught from the inside. I'm not a person to be taught from the outside so much as I am the inside. Because my inner self is connected to a higher realm and connected to more powerful sources than the ones outside of me, who in reality, let's just be honest, all sciences and areas of study damn near come from mysticism. Look that word up. Mysticism. Google it or look in the dictionary. Mysticism is another word for spiritual. But Christian people, they use words and they don't think that a person can look them up. So somebody can call me a psychic. Somebody could also call me a soothsayer. Somebody could also call me a diviner. But the word soothsayer, the word sooth means truth. Sooth means truth. So if you add sayer to the word sooth, it means truth teller. What's demonic about a truth teller? Other than you not wanting the truth teller to tell the truth about you. That's what it sounds like to me. We need to really get a handle on what's going on with us, because we are being taken advantage of on the worst level, on the soul level. We haven't even mastered our bodies, let alone our fucking souls, because half of us don't even know what the hell the soul does. Half the people think that the soul is the spirit, when the spirit is the breath, it's the prana, it's the chi. Look up the etymological root of the word spirit. Just like the word mind is different from the word soul. Let me stop because I can go all day. But I just wanted to inform people about psychology, because psychology is not what we think that it is. But it's modern psychology that's like that. But even post-modern day psychology, or is it pre-modern day psychology, they were teaching about parapsychology. Para? Man, please. Parapsychology? Let me see if that's in here. Hold on once. Let me just see if it's in here, because this gotta be deep. Before my phone passed. I was gonna say before my phone passed away. Bam. Here we go. Parapsychology, a field of study concerned with investigating paranormal psychological phenomena such as ESP. Matter of fact, where's my phone? Real quick, let me look up the definition to para. Let me see if it's here. No. Let me look up the prefix para. Hopefully I can find it. Okay. P-A-R-A. Para is a prefix. So it's parapsychology. It's all one word. It says a prefix with many meanings, including alongside of, beside, near, resembling, beyond, apart from, and abnormal. So basically abnormal psychology. Let me Google that real quick. Abnormal psychology definition. Abnormal psychology, it says, is the branch of psychology that studies unusual patterns of behavior, emotion, and thought, which may or may not be understood as precipitating a mental disorder. Although many behaviors could be considered as abnormal, this branch of psychology typically deals with behavior in a clinical context. There is a long history of attempts to understand and control behavior deemed to be aberrant or deviant, statistically, functionally, morally, or in some other sense, and there is often cultural variation in the approach taken. Let me get down here real quick. Okay, here we go. Explaining abnormal behavior. People have tried to explain and control abnormal behavior for thousands of years. Historically, there have been three main approaches to abnormal behavior: the supernatural, biological, and psychological traditions. Abnormally, psychology Abnormal psychology revolves around two major paradigms for explaining mental disorders: the psychological paradigm and the biological paradigm. The psychological paradigm focuses more on humanistic, cognitive, and behavioral causes and effects of psychopathology. Let me just go here. Supernatural explanations. In the first supernatural tradition, also called the demonological method, abnormal behaviors are attributed to agents outside of human bodies. According to this model, abnormal behaviors are caused by demons, spirits, or influences of the moon, planets, and stars. Do y'all hear this? I never read this. This is my first time reading this. During the Stone Age, trepanning was performed on those who had mental illnesses to literally cut the evil spirits out of the victims' heads. Conversely, ancient Chinese, ancient Egyptians, and Hebrews believed that there were evil demons or spirits and advocated exorcism. By the time of the Greeks and Romans, mental illnesses were thought to be caused by the imbalance of the four humors, the temperaments. It's not the temperaments, but it's related to, leading to draining of fluids from the brain. Okay, so y'all gotta hear this, okay? Psychology is not of the fucking brain. It's of the mind, the soul, which in turn affects the personality. So with the mind, the soul, and the personality, where does the brain come in being medicated in all this? You get what I'm saying? Where does the brain come in with all this? And why is the brain being medicated? Because when the brain is medicated with psychotropic drugs, you calcify the pineal gland. So does the air and the pollution. So does the water. So does the genetically modified foods. Calcify the pineal gland. So then I have to make you wonder, what is the purpose of medicating our pineal glands and calcifying them? Is it to turn us off or to get us out of tune or shut us out of our own realm? Because it's really not helping people so much as it is sedating them and making them easily suggestible to suicidal ideation, to anxiety, to depression, to restlessness, agitation, irritability, hostility. You should go look at the CIA and mind control and take a look at what they started to give people and what they give people during their mind control experience.